Hey, what is up?
Hey.
The intro didn't quite work, but we're here. What's up, Todd?
Hey, Todd, good to see you.
Hey, how are you guys doing today? Thanks for having me on today.
Doing great.
great.
Doing great.
Really excited to chat and talk about all the exciting stuff you got going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a
Definitely.
good group of people that keep me busy all the time. So, you guys fire away and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All right.
Yeah, we're really excited about today's topic, diving into the Spawn #1 original cover art 101 NFT currently on auction at Mallow. We're really excited to hear that announcement. Really excited to hear about that announcement. But before we dive into that, I want to make sure everyone out there knows that we actually just started a newsletter. It's a bi-weekly newsletter that highlights the physical and digital collectible space, including original blogs and record sales, upcoming auctions, and also exclusive giveaways. So make sure to sign up by going to our website, comicsandcrypto.io.
Yeah.
So Todd, we know you're a big collector, and we've heard the story of buying the Mark McGwire 60-second home run baseball. Have you been collecting anything recently?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always buying, collecting stuff. The thing is that when you sort of get a little notoriety of buying something that is a bit of a headline grabber, everybody thinks that everything you buy is a headline grabber. It's not true, right? So the vast majority of what I grab, most people would be, I don't understand why you're buying that. And it's usually because it was something I had when I was like a kid or a teenager, all that stuff that sort of reminds you of your youth, or just something that's coming out new that I just go, hey, I gotta have that one too. So I buy. Let me tell you, I buy a lot of stuff under $40. So everything doesn't have a bunch of zeros on it.
Hey, so some of the best stuff that is collectible now are things that weren't necessarily meant to be collectible or weren't necessarily meant to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I love that.
Well, I would argue that some of the most cherished things we have in our collection are arguably the things that nobody else would care about because they're sort of sentimental to us personally, right? Because that was the first Hot Wheel I ever got. I remember it, that version and that color, and nobody else was like, oh, I hated that car, right? So it doesn't have to have a resale value. Some of it is just, like I said, it's just for us personally.
Totally agree. Yeah, one of my favorite things. It's behind me over here, but it's a fossil that my grandma basically handed down to me, and it's something that's been in the family for a while, and I don't think it's worth much. It's a fish fossil, but for me, it's really cool. And I grew up like wanting to be a paleontologist. Instead, we're here talking to you, but
I think collecting can fall into the same definition at times of art, and the simple definition of art is, I don't know what art is, but I know what I like, right? Which at its core, for the most part, means that you could take 50 people, take them into the biggest sort of museum that you have, put them in the biggest gallery, and say, go stand in front of your favorite, and all 50 of them may stand in front of a different one, right? For a completely different reason. So it doesn't have to translate to everybody, right? We all look at everything that we do, what we consume, TV, movies, music, the concerts we go to, and all, and we all have varying degrees of what we like. This is why I sort of tap my wife on the shoulder. She's always suggesting TVs and movie show, and I'm like, and she gives like these big glowing reports, and I'm like, you don't know that they don't like that kind of type of movie, right? And then their friends go, I can't trust you anymore. I can't trust you anymore with suggestions. So I usually temper it because I know my personality isn't necessarily the same as everybody else's. So what I consider to be cool doesn't necessarily mean it's going to strike with somebody else. So I just collect what I want and usually keep my mouth zipped.
Happens to me a lot, Todd.
Yeah.
I lost all my credibility in film.
No, because we all tend to go to the things that we enjoy, right? So I like on the movie front, I like dark, serious, R-rated movies, right? Like movies that I go, God, that could have happened in real life, right? Very few special effects, but my wife hates them because they're depressing to her. They're like, why do you always want to watch depressing movies, right? Because I just like, I don't know. they just rile me up, right? They rile me up. I get worked up over it. Like, God damn us, fucking humans, you know. So let's go. Where other people go, no, I want to. I want to sort of escape it. Let me also tell you that, like, and I'm getting off topic. I'll let you guys answer some question. My entertainment is that, like, I do fantasy all day long, right? So at the end of the day, I unplug, and so I don't watch a lot of things that have a lot of fantasy and or special effect. I actually just want gritty street level drama.
That
Just
makes
like
sense.
I need to get away from the fantasy, and why? Because I'm the opposite. That I was immersed in fantasy and I want to get out of it. Where people who are immersed in reality all day long, I get it. They want to come home and just forget about being an accountant for 10 hours, and they want to, like, have a little bit of fun and do something with their video. I get it. So this is why I try not to apply what works for me on anybody else, but it's cool. Like, geeks is geeks and fans is fan. We're all in the big giant boat together, which is sort of the exciting best part about it.
Totally. So I wanted to get a little bit into Web3. So I mean, it seems like you've kind of just like totally grabbed the market by the horns. Like, you've dived in and you've been working on multiple projects in the Web3 space. So I'm really curious what was that moment for you where it clicked, and where the technology really made sense for you, and where you could kind of see what it could do for the comic and the collectible space.
So I'm probably going to give you an answer that may disappoint you, right? That I tend not to overthink, like, a lot of my decisions, and I think that I keep most of them simple. And here's the simple sort of answer of going to where there's Web3, because there's a bunch of people there, right? I'm in the art business, and I never believed in the theory of build it and they will come, right? I think Field of Dreams basically gave off a false message. I think the message is build it, find a crowd, stand in front of them, and make them run you over. Because the crowd isn't going to notice. The crowd isn't going to find you, right? If you want a job, you have to get out of your basement, get dressed, get in your car, go there and do an interview. You have to go to them. I think that marketing your product is the same thing. They're not going to come to your house and say, "Hey, do you want a job?" Right? So Web3 is just a place where there is a gathering of humans, and as an artist, I don't get too married to where I'm at. So if people want to see their art on TV, I try and see if I can get stuff on TV. If they want to get it through video games, and you try and get it through video games. If tomorrow everybody consumed a bunch of art by looking at the side of blimps, I'd figure out how to get my art on the side of a blimp. So I can't say that I'm savvy in all things sort of crypto and Web3 or any of that. I just know that there is a hardcore, dedicated group of people who are super passionate about that. And so my entry in there is, well, given that you guys have already sort of tasted and know what you want, is there anything that I can sort of give you that is palatable to you and what it is that you're looking for, and we'll just take it from there. And so we've experimented a handful of times on things. Some, like anything else, work better than others. I don't think that the audience in sort of crypto and Web3 are any different than anywhere else, right? You give them a quality product, you be consistent with it, and you charge a fair price. I think that recipe works everywhere, not just in. You do that out at the swap meet with your jars of jelly, and then you take it all the way up to what we're talking about. The recipe, that 3-step recipe, will always work. So that's what we're doing, and it seems we're getting a little bit of attention, but again, it's still the Wild West. I still think that
Very
all
much.
we're all all pioneers, and I don't think anybody can truly say that they know where any of this is going to be 5 years from now. I think they're lying if
Yeah.
they actually do have a strong opinion. But that that to me is sort of the exciting piece, is the unknown, not the known, is the unknown, because there's no wrong answers right now.
Yeah.
I've been in the Web3 space, I guess, since 2017, but like NFTs, like specifically since like 2018, and I can say everything that I thought was going to happen has not happened, and everything has happened differently, and it's been really fun to watch all the different artists and technologists experiment in the space and be able to push things forward, and just create new ways for people to experience art.
I would also add to it that there can be a tendency that when one or two things work, that everybody replicates.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so I as an older guy, as a fatherly, it's like, because everybody else is doing it doesn't necessarily mean that you should be doing it yourself. There's reasons why it works, but then if everybody does it, then quote unquote innovation starts to slow down, right? And what you want is to still have enough people that are willing to experiment, to your point, because you don't know whether something's going to work until you expose it to the public. And if you just replicating what the public already knows, they're not getting to know that there's something else. Look at, when I was a kid, I'm going to age myself. There's a bunch of these little stores that were called, Baskin and Robbins 31 flavor, right? I don't know, if they'd only offered 20, everybody would have thought those are the only 20, right? But they said, let's try 21. Let's add another one. Like, and to me, we should be doing the same thing. Not saying that what's successful shouldn't be replicated at times, but to me, they should also be bricks that you're just building upon to go, well, let's try something else. What's the next step up on that, right? What's the next? Again, we don't have to invent anything. What's the sort of the sexier version of that? And then you just keep sort of going like this. So over time, you went from here to here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that in any industry, industry. Otherwise, you can fall, because what's going to happen if you just fall in love with your idea, then you're going to have some guy in a garage named Steve Jobs and his buddies come and then just go, oh, IBM, right? Like you can't. And history has proven that when you get complacent, that it's basically the outsiders that come in that don't know that they're doing something wrong, that basically are the ones that actually sometimes shake things up, right? So, Tesla wasn't in the car business, until late in the game. There were a lot of cars, and then they said, well, let's just try one little thing a little bit different and see if we can't actually do it on a big scale, right? And it worked. Again, it's not for everybody, but it was another option for people in what is otherwise buying a car. That's all you have to do, is just give them options.
Yeah. Totally.
We had a chance to meet you at an Oddkey event meetup at San Diego Comic-Con 2022, and anyone who held a Spanoki NFT was allowed to attend. It was a really, really fun time, and this demonstrated the power of utility. Do you think it's necessary for all digital collectibles to have utility?
I don't think it hurts. I mean, again, you sort of look at everything and you go, what's the downside, right?
Yeah.
The downside would be that if you do it and you don't sort of give value to it, right? I mean, if you're gonna say to somebody, hey, we're gonna give a utility to this, which basically means we're gonna sort of upgrade you a little bit, right? Again, use simple analogies. Hey, if you have this, there's a chance that then we could upgrade you from your middle seat in the airplane into first class. That's kind of noticeable to people, and they're like, okay, cool, right? But if it's just, we're going to move you from the middle seat to the aisle seat, okay, that's still better, but it's not dramatic. I think you constantly have to be monitoring what it is that you're doing if you expect people to be loyal, right? I mean, if you expect loyalty out of them, I think you need to give loyalty back. I mean, I think it's a two-way street. And so yes, I think it's good for people, but I think that you also have to make it, not all the time, but as much as possible, at least on a semi-regular basis, make it valuable, make it meaningful, I guess is a better word, to the crowd.
Yeah, definitely. And you easily have one of the most recognizable signatures in the comic industry. I've got a few.
Well, because you can read,
Yeah.
it's only recognizable because it's recognizable because you can read it. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Actually,
oh man, that's a whole, like, we got a whole. That's a whole nother hour of like
I'm actually,
signatures. I
yeah.
yeah. I'm just an old man. I just like you only get to control a couple things in your life, right? You only get to control a couple things in your life. One of them is the way that you signify your existence on a piece of paper. And it's weird to me that you want to take yourself and it be fuck what I give a fuck. Right? Like I don't, and my wife's got the worst one. So, but it just like to me, every time I write my name, I guess it's just like that's me, right? I maybe I just have too big of an ego. I care more about me than that, than to just squiggle this out like and go. I don't give a shit about my name. I don't give a shit about how people recognize it or whatever else. So, and part of it, my mom and dad had great penmanship. So,
And what was the inspiration for that? To making sure that your signature was recognized and people could read your name. And because I remember you hearing this story.
It was easy. This is easy. It was. Yeah. I went to my very first comic book show probably when I was 16, and at that point there were no comic shops and whatever else. So they had the UPC code, and most of the time you could tell who the artists were because they had their name right what they called the gutter, right, like right on the gutter of the spine, between the spine and the UPC code. And it would say their name, Smith and Johnson. And there was a slash if there was a penciler and an inker. And I just thought that was their signature. Silly me, naive me. I thought that was their signature. And so I remember my first comic book convention, I went to go get an autograph, and somebody who I'd been following their career, and I went, whoa, 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 whoa. And he's like, what? And I'm like, but that's not your name. This is your name over here. And they were like, "Oh, silly boy! No. That's my name in the gutter. This is my signature, right? Made sense, right? I don't have room to do my signature, but it bugged me that I just like that's not what it's supposed to look like. I thought it's supposed to look like how you sign it on the cover." So I remember leaving as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, just getting new into comic books, going, "If I ever break into comic books and I'm ever on the other side, I'm going to make it so that if somebody comes up to me," I'm just basically reflecting on what happened to me. If somebody comes up to me, I want to give them a signature. So when they see Todd, and then especially the McFarlane, they can go point to that scroll and go, see, it's the same guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, if it's like this, I could get my neighbor to do that and say, I mean, I do this sometimes with actual autographs that are really bad by famous people. I just say, who's your favorite actor? That's theirs. You can't tell one way or the other, right? Yeah. So I want it to be like I met that guy. You can see it there, and there's his comic book, and now his name is printed. So it's sort of a silly reason, but that was it.
Yeah. As an artist myself, I've actually been practicing my signature. I've been like literally taking time to like write it out, and, like get better at like writing it. Because the same thing for you. I was like, I just don't want people to see like an X and then a line.
Well, even further to that, even if you get in, even if you become an artist, it's weird to me the way that people sign their name on their own covers so that it's almost illegible anyway, or it's so small or faint, or it's so cute, or they're trying to do some kind of symbol, and it's like it doesn't mean anything. And what's worse, like I'll give you an example, and Greg won't mind. Greg Capullo did this. Greg Capullo is one of the great, if not the greatest, sort of comic book artists we got out there right now. And he used to do this CG style thing in a box, and it was, I get it, Greg. I get. Now that you tell me, I get it's a C and a G for Greg Capullo. I get it, whatever. But it doesn't look like anything. And when I'm inking your covers, you do your little thing. I do McFarlane, and then I'm at the shows, and they think I did it. Because they don't even know they didn't know that was a bad signature. They didn't even know that was a signature. So I'm getting the credit for your name, right? And I even took them to a show one time to go, here, just sit next to me, right? And you're going to see I'm getting credit for your work. If it was me, I'd actually put Capullo, right? Not some fancy thing. And so he does now. But that conversation, I've had that conversation with dozens of artists of going, I don't get why you want to hide your name and not let people know who you are. Because we live in a sea of competition. And one of the things that you can do to help your career move forward is just have people recognize your art, good or bad, but at least they recognize it and they recognize the name. But if you've got all that hidden, you're giving away a piece of it. So, but again, those they're just sort of little pieces that I think, in hindsight, have been relevant to the recipe of my career. Not any one of them matter, but putting out a book at a fair price, putting it out regular, making sure they could see your name. I mean, there's like 20 things you put into the bowl when you stir it up and then you bake the cake, right? That becomes your career. But I don't know. Make sure your name is legible, I think matters.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
One of the things that really oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to real quick just because Sergio just he just put up, really appreciate the donation, and also he has a question for you. Sergio also coincidentally I think has the highest bid currently for the one of one piece. So
Nice.
Yeah. It's good friend of the
Thanks,
podcast, Sergio. Yeah. Sergio.
So I was wondering if you could answer. So how do you strike a balance between creating high quality, detailed figures collectors love while also making them accessible to a wider audience? Really good question.
Wow. I guess a couple of things. First, right at the top, like if I'm not a public company, I don't have to maximize profits. Right. The way that capitalism is set up here in the world, but let's just talk about sort of North America, is that big companies we deal with that are public, that are out in the stock market, that means that they have stock that they offer. The people at the top are hired, and it's their duty, right? I don't say it as a negative. I'm just saying it's their duty. They have a responsibility. They call it a fiduciary responsibility, and that responsibility means that they must maximize shareholder value every 90 days, which basically means like squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. When you're not under that pressure, and I've never been, my companies, I always just sort of hold to myself, then the only shareholder I have to keep happy is technically my wife and I. And my wife and I, we're okay, and we don't need to walk around in diamonds, and she doesn't need to have furs, and we don't need to have Porsches and stuff. So at that point, then you can put more of your corporate money into the product. It means you make less profits, but I don't even ascribe to that necessarily, because if you make a good product, a quality product at a fair price, sometimes the result is people will buy lots of it. And then if they buy lots of it, even though you're making less profit, you're getting now double or triple what you thought you were going to get. So the money is the byproduct of putting out a good and fair product on it. So for me, I've always just said, make the product be sort of the king in the equation, and then we'll worry about everything else. Because I think people understand quality and value. I don't care what consumer, they just understand that. So how is I able to sort of go up against like the Hasbros and the Mattels of the world with like Spawn, that wasn't a brand name, compared to Star Wars and Marvel and Transformers, stuff like that? I think I just gave them a better product. I gave them more plastic. I gave them more detail, and then I priced it kind of about the same price. So I was trying to give them a Cadillac at basically Ford Motor prices, right? And people will recognize it, even though they go, I don't know what a Spawn is, but that's kind of cool, and it's kind of the same price, and he's giving us way more plastic and way more detail. What the heck, right? So I don't know. That's how we do it. I don't worry about maximizing profits. So
love that. And as a byproduct of that, you're getting your IP and your stuff into more hands of people who love it, and more people are able to appreciate it. Like people aren't priced out of it.
So you just defined what I think for me is the greatest value, right? I would rather have 1 million people give me $1 than to have 10 people give me 100,000. At the end of the day, it's still the same $1 million. But the one equation, you have 1 million people that know your product, and 1 million people, that's value, because if you lose 20% of them, you still have 800,000, right? Where if you have 10 people give you 100,000, you lose 20% of them, you've lost 2 out of the 10, right? You only got 8 left. So I don't know. There's something to be said about growing your base first and then worrying about how to derive money second. To some extent, I guess video games figured it out when they did the free to play, right?
Yeah.
And then they go, let's just give it away, and then hope, fingers crossed, they'll do some microtransactions. And if we've got 20 million of them and they each give us a nickel, that's actually a significant business, right? And if they give us more than a nickel, they give us a dime, then we're all dancing naked on the streets because we exceeded expectations. So that's it. I've spent 30 years just trying to build the audience and the brand and show loyalty for that they've given me, show it back to them, so that they don't think that I'm taking advantage of them, right? Because to me, other than you can make money, there has to be another reason. Why are we doing this other than we can make cash? Well, we don't really need cash right now. We're doing okay. So why are we doing it then? Right? And that's the core that I'm constantly asking my own people, of like, other than we could just do something, print something, make something, go there, do an exclusive here or there, make $50,000, $100,000. And I know we can. Other than that, why are we doing this? It can't just be that, because in the long run, people who are constantly, I think, asking for donations essentially from their base of fans, if you keep doing it, there actually is going to come a day where you actually, because there's ebbs and flows of business, that you're going to actually need that money. And then you're going to finally ask your fans, hey, I got to do this thing and you need to give me $14.99 or whatever it is. And they're going to go, dude, we've been doing this for 5 years. We're exhausted. Yeah. We don't have any more. Right. Yeah. But my long play is that I try not to pick my fans' pockets, so that if and when there comes a time where I might actually need to generate money for whatever reason, there's lots of reasons, that they won't feel like, oh, not again. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm the only guy in the industry, comic industry, that's got $2.99 comic book. Right. That, like, every other comic book is $2.99, $3.99. Or, I mean, I'm $2.99. Every other one is $3.99 or $4.99, or in some cases even more. But I just go, okay, I guess I could charge an extra buck. I don't know what the reason is. Why? Like, it's not good for the end consumer. It would actually be better for the retailer, because they think if they sold the same amount, they'd make a few extra pennies. But I don't need the extra money either. So I don't know. Like, then why don't we just be okay? I was like, hey, you guys are making my life kind of easy. I'll return the favor by making it a little bit easy on you, by making it $1 or $2 cheaper if you want to buy a couple books. Oh, by the way, I think that formula is that if there's a $4.99 book and you can get 2 of mine at $2.99, you might actually buy 2 of mine compared to 1 of theirs. Right. That matters. That matters in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me growing up, especially, Spawn was one of my favorite comic books, and I grew up with the toys as well because I thought of them as quality. I saw that quality in those toys, and the fact that I could afford them was amazing to me as a kid growing up.
Yeah, the when I first got into the industry and the people I was going against, the big companies, that were like, oh, and I think at that time, in all honesty, if I remember right, toys were like action figures were $5.99, and I think ours came out at $6.99, and they were like rolling their eyes, going, "You can't sell a $6.99 toy, Todd." And the answer is, of course you can. But they were looking at it wrong. Not only can you sell, here's the simple equation. The way you sell a $6.99 toy, you just give them $6.99 of value. Better yet, try and give them $7 or $8.99 of value and charge $6.99. Then for sure they'll buy it. What you're thinking of, big corporations, is how can I sell my $5.99 toy for $6.99? You're right. That doesn't work because now you're just squeezing your customer, right? But if you just add 25 cents more to your toy, they'll pay an extra $1. They figured it out after they saw some of the stuff I did. You could see they just went. So you're saying if we just add a little bit, they'll give us an extra $1 and our profit margin will go up. Yes, like even when it was obvious to them for decades, they still weren't doing it. That there's a way to do it. Just give good product to people and people will respond. And how do I know that? The reason you can sell something for $6.99 because people will buy a $200 video game player console. Better than that, they'll buy a $70,000 car and eventually they'll buy a $400,000 house. So of course they'll spend more than $6.99 on something, but they have to get perceived value for the price that they're about to put down. So you're right. You can't sell something for $20 if they think it's only worth $5.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, I cut you off there. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, no worries. Actually, I was going to ask. One of the technology we're really excited about with Web3 is digital signatures. Yep. And I was curious what your vision is for signatures for artists in the digital space.
So we've done digital signatures on a couple of our things over on Oddkey.
Haven't been lucky enough to land one yet.
No. and one of the things I treated those like I was at a show in person, which basically means that if you gave me two, let's say Spawn number 1, and I signed both of them, if you put them next to each other, although at first blush they'll look like the same signature, you're going to see, because I did it twice, that there are slight variations in all of our signatures, right? So it's not exactly the same. The length of the way I cross the T or the drop down on my M or whatever, there's going to be some variation. So when we said we were going to do signatures on some of our stuff digitally, I still wanted to have each one of them be unique. So that if you happen to be lucky, you're saying you didn't get one, but if you happen to get two, that when you compared the two, they wouldn't be exactly the same. Why? Because if it was in real life and you got two signatures, they wouldn't be exactly the same. So I wanted to simulate what would be happening if you were in person as much as possible, sort of on a digital level. Does it take more time to do it that way instead of just doing one and replicating it 400 or 500 times? Of course it does. Of course it does. But I think those are the moves that people will pay attention to and appreciate. Yeah. That they're just going, he could have taken the shortcut, and we still would have bought it, but he didn't. He was willing to basically sign his name 500 times for these 500 signatures or whatever it is. And that's kind of cool, right? And the only person that sort of end up having to spend a little bit more time was me, but they shouldn't have to, the fans shouldn't have to worry about whatever pain is on me to sort of get it there. But I think digital signatures, I think can have a lot of value done right. So
yeah, definitely, especially giving people the opportunity worldwide to have access to them. Maybe you send a collectible and have it signed. Yep. Because they couldn't travel to San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con.
Right. That's the piece of the digital world, and you just touched on it in a big, meaningful way. That's the piece that I don't think people understand really, right? Is that the cost to go to one of these shows, to meet the people at these shows, is not anywhere near being cheap, right? By the time you've got hotels and rent-a-cars and food and your airline tickets, and then even the tickets to get in and whatever, like you're into multiple thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. And if there's a way that you could get some of it, either which is why the internet works and why Amazon and eBay work, you just go, I'm just going to buy it and they're going to drop it off at my house. I don't even have to go and get it. But if you can do it with things like signatures and they feel comfortable with that, then cool. I mean, the only other way is you send it in like a CGC, grading service. The artist comes in, signs it, and then you send it back. So, I mean, there is a way to physically get it and still not have to leave your house, but each one of them comes at a cost. The one where you sit at home and it's a digital download, that should be able to be done at the cheapest of all the costs. And it should be to some extent as viable as any of the others if you insist and make it viable, right? Like this one of one that we're doing, people can poo-poo it all they want and go, oh, just Todd's selling it. I'm like, and I still think that whatever the price is, it's still going to be at a fraction of what it's going to be worth in the future when people find out that there's only two ways you're ever going to get the cover to issue number one. Either you're going to buy the physical one from Todd someday or after he dies from his kids, or you would have gotten this one at the auction. That's it. There's only going to be two in existence. And and you're going to go, wow, the person who bought it only paid like 1/100th of the other one, but now there's only two. Like, woo. I mean, in terms of like, if I was to sell the physical one, I think it would go to high price, and then it would take more for it to keep climbing. But I think this one is going to go. I don't care how high it gets. I still think it's going to be at a fraction of what it probably is going to be worth done right, like 10, 15 years from now.
Yeah. I'm excited to dive into that in a little bit too. And, for me personally, the first digital collectible I ever bought was about 3 years ago. And it was the Todd McFarlane Batman on VV digital collectibles. And when I met you at Oddkey event in 2022, you actually signed it with your finger, and I actually printed it out and put it up on the wall right there. It's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
And it looks like you got a 3D of it behind you on the other side.
I do. Yeah. I got to match. Yeah. And I just remember the way it made me feel, and it was so cool. And I was so excited at the opportunity to be able to put these signatures on the blockchain and for everyone to enjoy this worldwide. And it's going to be an exciting thing in the future.
Yeah. But this is to go back to our conversation earlier. This is part of that wild, wild west, right?
Yeah.
That what may be acceptable now might not be, or what's unacceptable now, or what people are a little tentative about may be completely normal in 3 or 4 years. Remember, there was a time when the internet came along and people go, I'm not giving you my credit card number. Right? Especially old people. Right? Especially old people.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. So, and then eventually we all sort of went, okay, it's okay, right? The waters are safe. There's no sharks, right? Digital. I think the world of digital, and again, time is going to tell. But given that, I would say that the majority of the people, I'm just off the top of my head, but my gut just tells me I'm pretty right, is that the majority of the people that are in this space are fairly young, right? I don't think they're over 50. I think they're probably 40 and under, the bulk of it, which basically means that they're going to either grow up and then pass what was normal to them down to the next generation, or they're going to already expand it to, if they got kids already or nephews or nieces or whatever, they're going to expand it to them, just like we do with our favorite sports teams and our favorite movies and our favorite comic books. We all get there. My dad had like this, so I like it now, right? I think that this space, this digital space, and it's big, right? I don't even want to sort of say, Web3 per se, because that might even be sort of making it too tight. But this whole digital space is still got lots and lots and lots of potential on the art front.
Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah. Quick shout out to Sleeping Comics. Big friend of the podcast. There's a few of them out there.
Hey, Sleeping, me too. So, but the thing is that here's the difference, though. Sleeping is that, and because I'm getting old, I hang out with old people. Like, a lot of old people don't want to keep up with youth. right? And I do, because I'm just competitive. I'm like, fuck it, like I'm not letting no 20-year-old show me up, even though they're actually bigger, stronger, faster, and smarter. So it actually matters when you get old that being young is better. But if you look to see what they're doing, they're always going to be at the curve of sort of the next wave of whatever that wave is. Digital space is one of those curves. And so you can either try and go with it, or you can either let it pass you by, or you can wake up and then have to play catch up. I'd rather just go, the wind's blowing. And this is going back to your very first question, where I go, I don't overthink it. That it's, if there's this wave moving in that direction, I go, why are they going there? Right? Like, why are they going there? It must be of interest to them. I don't personally even have to advocate or like it myself. I just have to acknowledge, if somebody does art, that there's a bunch of human beings and there's a big group of potential customers over there. I should go over there, right? So,
yes. Yeah. And real quick, Evan, before we get to your question, we have a question from somebody in the audience, from John here. Nice. What is your favorite sports collectible that you own?
Wow. I mean, I got a lot of graded cards. Like, I've got a bunch of sets that are on the registry that are number one, right? I've got like the best in the planet. Because if you're gonna go big, right? But again, they're not sort of big money makers per se. I probably collectively I own the. I mean, you said Mark McGwire, but then Barry Bonds broke the record. But I own the top 3 home run marks, right? So basically, like the gold, the silver, and the bronze, right? So if you go to the Major League record book and you punch in, like, what's the most home runs in a single season? You're going to get Bond 73, McGwire 70, and Sammy Sosa 66. I have all 3 of them. People can argue, the steroid era or whatever. I get it. I've heard it 1,000 times. You can dislike it all you want. Here's what I know for a fact: they're never not going to have those numbers in that book. So eventually, this generation of like are going to die, and the next generation isn't going to care so much about it. They're just going to go, "Wow, some guy hit 73 home runs. Oh man!" And then somebody say, "Yeah, but they were jacked up." Well, shit, I wish I could get jacked up so I could get 74. Like, it's not going to be. People aren't going to be nearly as sensitive about it. It's just going to be kind of like almost superhero-esque numbers going. Yeah, and that's super awesome. Because again, I even think somebody like Barry Bonds, who I knew personally, is maybe like our modern day Ty Cobb, which, I don't know if you know who he was, but he was a guy that nobody liked at the time. But fast forward 100 years, and Ty Cobb to us young baseball guy, like, he's a badass. Right? That picture of him coming up with the spikes, like, everybody's like, "Oh, that fucking guy, he's just like, he wanted to win at any cost. I want that guy on my team." So time basically will get you past the things that had people sort of riled up. And so those three balls, it's hard for me to manage, especially now that they sort of cleaned up a lot of the performance enhancing drugs they can have. Now hopefully we'll stick. Like, once I bought the 70, I didn't think I was gonna have to buy another one. and then Bonds comes like, "Oh man." And I was like, I didn't want to have to buy a new ball every year. So now we're back to like 40, 45 home runs is the norm. And so hopefully now I'll get a 30, 40-year run, and before I have to worry about getting excited that anybody's going to come close to those numbers.
You get one of these, Pete Rose. Oh. I'm sorry. I bet on baseball. That's one of my favorites.
Big bad Pete Rose, but even Pete. Look at even Pete Rose. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Right? It's
100%.
weird. I go to the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame and I go, the guy who's got the most home runs in a season isn't here. The person who's got the most, strikeouts by a right-handed pitcher isn't in here, and the person who's got the most hits isn't in here. Because why? Because we decided that we were going to have some rules that they again, you can use your own eyes, but again, they weren't proven in a court of law to sit there, whatever else. But I don't know. I and they say, like for Pete Rose, they say, well, there's a sign in every major league park that says that you don't bet on the game. That's in every park as you sort of head out the tunnel. He did it after he got his 4,200 plus hits, right? So he did it as a manager. Keep him out as a manager, then put him in as a hitter. But the people who created that sign in the 1920s, they didn't even let brown and black people on the field. So here's what I would say to their moral standards. Fuck you, right? So I'm not taking the moral standards of somebody who thought that a black and a brown man wasn't capable of playing the game. So I don't care what they thought was right and wrong, right? Because they were doing a lot of other stuff that was wrong. And yet those people were racking up their numbers in a league that they weren't going against the best competition either. So we could argue, you want to start putting an asterisk, we'll put asterisks on everybody that was pre-Jackie Robinson then, right?
True. Yeah.
It wasn't the best we could offer.
Yeah.
It was tainted at best. But we live with that, so here we go. But again, those are big discussions to have because everybody's got strong opinions.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering that question, and thank you, John, for asking it.
Yeah, and thank you for the donation as well. Appreciate that,
and for that as well. Of course.
All right,
for those who might, what'd you say, Sean?
We're ready for you, Kev.
For those who might not be familiar with Spawn, where did the idea come from, and what inspired you to make such a unique and gritty comic?
I don't know. Again, I don't know that it's wholly unique in any sense, but I created them when I was 16, when I was living up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. That was where I was born. And I was trying to teach myself how to draw superhero comics. So I was doing, X-Men's and Spider-Man's and Iron Man's and Batman and Superman, but I was also inventing some of my own, and I did a whole bunch. And the one I liked the best was Spawn. I had a comic book I had started, still have the pages for it. And so when I broke into Marvel years later, I broke into Marvel and worked with DC. I understood the history of that industry, that it wasn't conducive for me to ever pull out my characters and give it to them. Again, if part of the assignment was I had to create a new character, I would do it, right? Henceforth, there's a character called Venom. But I wouldn't, and some other people did. They actually pulled those characters they created when they were 15, 16 and said, hey, I got this character, you want it? I sat on it for a long time. And then when we went and we left and we started Image comic books, everybody knows Marvel and DC. Image is third largest and have been for 30 years in a row. I knew I was going to start with Spawn because he was my favorite of all the characters I created. What I wanted to do with them, getting to your gritty part of it, was like Batman, I thought was like a super cool character. Just that I thought he pumped the brakes at certain times because he had to, because he was a corporate character. And they have to sell their T-shirts and hats and whatever to young kids and their toys and whatever. So I go, okay, fine, I get it. So I go, well, what would it, what's the character that is unfettered from corporate sort of decision making, right? And really more than anything else, I just infused them really with mostly my personality. You shoot at me, I'll shoot you back, right? I'm not gonna sit there and go, no, I have a moral code. A moral code. There's bullets whizzing by, and oh, by the way, I gotta protect my children. So I've always said that Spawn wouldn't have let the Joker go to jail 25 times and get out and kill 25 times and put him in jail. He would have, once he saw that the system couldn't keep him locked up, about probably try number 5, he would have just gone and broke his fucking neck and just said, there,
Yeah.
now humanity and my own family, let alone my community's family, let alone anybody else's family, doesn't have to worry about this madman. So again, is it breaking the rules? Sure it is. Is it not being a Boy Scout superhero? Sure it is. Sure it is. But to some extent, I would do the same. If the pedophile killer could not be contained by our system today, and every time they got out, they killed another kid. By about the 10th time, I think I could find 4 or 5 other dads to go, let's go pay the dude a visit, and he may disappear, right?
Yeah.
Like at some point, you have to just go, if the system can't fix it, then you have to do it. Otherwise, you have to live in fear or look over your shoulder. And I won't do it, and neither will Spawn. So Spawn was basically just a guy that goes, I'll push back. Right. And issue number 5 was my coming out of saying that out loud, which was the issue, and I'm going way back, which was the issue where he basically kills Billy Kincaid, the kid killer.
There we go.
Right.
Number 5 right there.
And, yeah. And he just goes, and the end. And not only did he kill him, but he doesn't do it in a very gentle. I mean, you don't see him killing him other than that last shot. Right. And when he put the sign on his chest, he made sure he stapled it with the popsicle sticks. But the last one was the blunt edge of the ice cream scoop. And he made sure that went where the heart was, right? To just go, basically, if you're evil, you had better start looking over your shoulder. Because you think you're a shark, there's a bigger, blacker, darker shark behind you, right? And so... And this is why I always like Batman, because Batman is just like, I don't want to date girls and I don't want to, go to parties, even though I got $1 million. I just want to sit at home from after I get home at work, wait till 2 a.m, and then I want to go put my black costume on. I want to go scare the shit out of the bad guys. Why? Because they've been scaring us, and I'm tired of it going in one direction. I'm going to go even some of the odds. I'm going to scare them back. I want them to be nervous when they're walking down the street. So, but that's just me. I just get riled up. So anyway, I think I'm 12 feet. I think I'm 12 feet tall and bulletproof. So anyway,
but that's also what made the character unique for me. Growing up, my family was Christian. We were raised, in the church. So for me, reading this comic where this character who comes from hell, basically, who's a hell spawn, and goes to then kill all these other bad guys in graphic ways. To me, that was like, oh, you get your comeuppance for once. I like that.
Well, it's interesting because the heaven hell part of it, and full disclosure, I don't have an ounce of religion in me, right? Matter of fact, I'm like as far to the other extreme as there. So I thought it was appropriate that it has to be a guy like me to play with some of these things, because I don't think I'm blaspheming anything.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, okay, I got my character, I got Spawn, and in the very first story I wrote when I was 16, it wasn't like heaven and hell, but I go, okay, so who's the biggest bad guy, right? And the answer is that we have all been taught, oh, well, it was the devil, right? Like, okay, cool. So I was like, man. So what if he was somehow tied to that biggest bad guy? But what if someday he beats the biggest bad guy? Would that make him the greatest hero instead of just saving the bank robber or somebody wants to eat a planet? It's actually somebody who's created evil, right? Now, will Spawn ever do it? I don't know. Is he capable of doing it? I don't know. But but he's in that situation. But to add another element, he also doesn't care about heaven, because I made him like me. That he doesn't care about upstairs or downstairs. His whole thing is just let us be ourselves. Let us be human. Stop imposing your will, good or bad, on us. Let us you want to give us free will? Then the easiest way to give us free will is to leave us, right? Get out of our face and let us go there. So for Spawn, he was caught up in this game and he didn't really sort of have an allegiance to either side. Because he would just like, I just want to be my own man. That harkens back to my own personality, which is why I start these companies and I do what I do. I'll take failure all day long on its face, but I want most, if not all, the decision making to have been mine, because I can live with my own failures way easier than if somebody made a decision for me and it didn't work out. Because then I'm going, well, man, if we tried it a different way, I don't want to be that guy. So Al Simmons, the Spawn character, is just that guy. Like I don't want you sort of pushing my life. I just want to live so that my epitaph on my graveyard says, here lies Todd or Al Simmons. You can interchange it. He died a free man. Right? That's it. That's the game. I'm just going,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to answer to anybody.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So we are very excited about the new Spawn film, which is being in development right now at Blumhouse. I believe Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Renner have already signed on to star in the film. But what are you most excited for in this new silver screen adaptation?
To get it done, first off, because it's been a long, slow
process.
root canal. It's been a lot. Like, I know all of a sudden the pandemic came.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, a writer's strike came, and you're just like going, "Oh my god!" I know what the title is going to be, Spawn. As a matter of fact, the curse of Spawn, right? Like, oh, like it's just painful, just painful. Sadly, you can actually find dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands, examples of people who were in "quote unquote" development hell for a decade or more themselves. So it's not like this is actually even unique on any level. But I think the thing I'm looking forward to is seeing what the reaction will be from the audience, in that everybody on our side is completely bought into that it has to be R-rated. And not R-rated so that you can say the F word or you can show naked ladies or any of that. Not for that reason, but so that you can take sophisticated themes and apply them, and it not sort of offend, a 5-year-old because you're trying to like get them to go buy a toy thereafter, right? I've told my toy people, it's like, we're going to try and make a movie, even the one I wrote earlier, but that got pushed aside. We've got new writers on it that won't sell toys, and the reason is because I can't let a tail wag a dog, and the tail would be saying that you got to do something just so you can sell T-shirts and hats and toys. I can't. What we need to do is make a movie that I hope will satisfy the hardcore audience, but I still have to look beyond that, because to be successful, you have to get like tens upon tens of millions of people globally to go to your movie. And that means that we have to just make a good, entertaining movie first. And whether it's 100% loyal to the comic book or not has to be, to me, secondary. Yeah. As long as there's enough in it for the fan base to go, that's cool. Because all I tell the writer, I go, look, I think if you did a word cloud of Spawn, I think the two biggest words would be, a couple of the big words would be like badass and like dark and moody, gritty, whatever word you use. And if you keep those two, badass and sort of dark and cool, I go, I think you can wrap it up in a variety of ways, and it doesn't have to be completely loyal to the comic book. Just keep the vibe of it there. Now, it's gone so long now that oddly we may actually be kind of at the right spot through dumb luck or time, whatever, because and here's why I say that is that I think, and we'll find out, we'll come back and see how close I was. I think the top two movies this year, by the time this calendar year is over, I think the top two movies are going to be Deadpool and Joker 2. I think in terms of money grossing.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, or close to being right, then it means that Hollywood, which is fairly predictable, will be then chasing the new hot thing. And the new hot thing isn't going to be comic book movies per se. It's going to be R-rated dark comic book movie, because both Deadpool and Joker are both R-rated.
Yeah.
So they're going to go, oh man, our last 3 movies that were PG didn't work. What we need to do is we need R-rated movies. Now, you can't take Captain America and flip a switch and make them R-rated, even if you wanted to, which they won't. But even if you wanted to, it has to be I think the right characters that fit the bill. Yeah. And to me, I've been saying that for a long time. The guy who can fit that bill that's available, because Marvel and DC characters aren't available, that has been staring you in the face, that it's at the top of the rankings. It sometimes is number 1 in those rankings. Yeah, is Spawn, and then there's nothing close in terms of having a 30-year history and the brand still being strong and having people know about it to some extent within reason globally. I mean, again, it's still in the bubble of comic books, but it's, you know, it had the one movie and it had the HBO and a couple of video games, so it's sort of popped its head out every now and then. So it's not isolated, but again, it's there. There's that, and Hollywood is gonna, I believe, is gonna track R-rated dark stuff in a heartbeat, and we're gonna go, we got this thing called Spawn. One more thing, Hollywood also likes to make money, and they're gonna be looking at those movies, and arguably the number 1 movie could be Joker 2, right? The first movie made $1 billion, the only R-rated movie ever to make $1 billion, ever in cinema history. Joker 1 is the only R-rated movie to get across the threshold of $1 billion. If this movie crosses $1 billion, then the guy who wrote both of those movies with his director is a guy by the name of Scott Silver. He'll be the only human being to not only have done it once, he'll be the only human being to have done it twice. Just so everybody knows, the guy who's writing the Spawn script right now is Scott Silver.
Nice.
So if Hollywood's looking for money makers, Scott Silver and Joker are going to be like, you're going to want Joker people, and more specifically, the guy who wrote Joker. And then you're going to also want R-rated dark stuff. And we're going to be standing there with both of those together. Like, so I think very quickly we're going to be in a catbird seat, that we're going to go, boom, you want that material, boom, by these talented people. And oh, by the way, look at the rest of the team that we've got. They're all A-listers. So I'm the weak link, and I'm the guy who co-created Venom. I'm the weak link. So let's go. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that somewhere between San Diego Comic-Con and the New York Comic-Con, then we'll have a big announcement of the sale being done. So
nice.
That's exciting.
Nice. We're very excited to see it.
Yeah. And at that point too, then it will, once you make the deal and the sale, then you start getting timetables. And then we'll be able then to say, hey, deal's done. Hey, they put us in a slot. Hey, here's when we're moving towards this, right? And let's go. But again, you know, we'll have to turn out a great trailer, right? And then we'll have to turn out a movie that entertains people, so that people want to see a sequel.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess talking back a little bit about the drop that's going on right now. So curious, I'm not sure if you were involved in the decision at all, but curious why you decided to release on the Drip and Mallow platform rather than other platforms. And then just more generally, do you have any plans to release any other of your original art in the digital space going forward?
Possibly. I mean, again, you know, let's see how it all falls out. Look at, I don't have an allegiance to any one platform, because again, to me, it's like, well, we're the people, right? And it's less about the platform. But I do like to. I'm curious. Let's leave it at that. So, like, we just recently did some stuff on this other place called Whatnot, and we crushed it over there. Doesn't mean I'm going to do a bunch over there. It doesn't mean I continue to do it. It just means that there was a place there where I could go and communicate with people. We had a nice sort of, AMAs and stuff like that. And then we did a big auction where all the money went to charity. And then, we did some other stuff. So drip to me, I think a smart idea for those that are tepid potentially about coming into our digital space, because they're like, I don't understand crypto and I don't know what's going on and it's not real. And I saw all the bad headlines, and I mean, they got 100 reasons why they don't want to get in, right? And I don't know how to get a wallet, and I don't even know if this is going to hold its value and all that other stuff. So Drip has created a system where it's like, why don't you come in for free? They will give you stuff for free, and then you can buy something with it for free, right? Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like going to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, and somebody giving you these tickets, and you get to redeem that. Except for in this case, you don't have to buy them in the machines. They'll just give you the tickets on a regular basis, and then once you got so many tickets, and you can buy something with it and redeem it, right? Cool. All right. I think it's a really interesting way to potentially get people who are sitting on the sidelines in, to just say, just dip your toe in it. Here's a way to dip your toe into it. Just come over here. And then I guess I could have gone to some of the bigger auction houses, whatever else, but I like the fact that this could be a place to bridge people across from like physical into digital. So I don't know, let's try it here. Maybe in hindsight, I'll go, there was 10 other places I should have gone that would have been way better. Who knows, right? But I'm less concerned about getting it right 100% of the time and maximizing profits and whatever else. I leave that to others, than to just try and experiment in ways that I think might have some lasting effect. So we'll see. I don't know that this thing that Drip is doing is sustainable long term. We'll find out, or whether it's even a good, useful bridge or not. But if you sell the message that way, if I say, hey, there's a place you can go for free and get free stuff, I don't know, free is really the biggest word they found out when they interview people. It's the biggest word you can use that you can get people's attention. So here we are. Now, again, the auction isn't going to be free per se, right? But it's a place where you can sort of go and get some stuff, and then every now and then there's some big thing happening over on the screen, and you can sort of watch it. This is one of the ones here. This is for some of the whales, if you will, that sort of play.
Oh, they're watching. I'm really happy that you brought up bridging the physical and digital space, and that's the kind of foundation of our podcast and why we started, because we believe in both physical and digital collectibles. We want to help bridge those two worlds together. And having now worked in both the physical and digital collectibles markets, do you still see a divide among physical and digital collectors? And what do you think will help finally cross over from either space?
Ultimately time. I mean, because history tells us it's the greatest sort of equalizer. So I think time's gonna be the thing. I don't think there's any one or two moves that are magically gonna get people who are either skeptical or adverse to it to come, right? But the world's a big enough place that we don't need everybody. So we don't have to necessarily try. I don't have the energy to try and drag people against their will in. What I'm looking for are people that are either enthusiastic or curious, right? Let's go after some of the curious people, but how do we make the entry point to the curious differently? Some will just come straight in and go, I'm going to buy some crypto and I'm going to open up a wallet and I'm going to go right in gung ho. Here we go. Right. And others may need just a little bit of a handrail to get in. And so I think for, at least for right now where I sit, I think that Drip is one of those handrails to potentially entice some people to come in. And I know it's sort of true, because when I look at the number of people that we have at both McFarlane Toys Digital and at Oddkey, and then I see what we've done essentially 2 weeks, a week on Drip, the number of subscribers. It's like a tenfold in 10 days and on the free spot. And it should come as no surprise because look at, we've all been to a grocery store where somebody's giving out free sample. And even those who go, I don't even like liver pate, but if they're going to give me a free bite of liver pate, I'm gonna have some on a cracker. I'm not going to buy any of it, but I'm going to at least sample it, right? And so it's okay. We're just the grocery store sampler right now, but the reason they do it is that they hope that a small percentage, 2%, 3%, actually will buy the product. And if we can then get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people to sample, and you keep only 2%, 3% of them, that's growth in our real sort of digital space, which is all we're sort of looking for. And the more people that get comfortable and the more it becomes the norm and the more they get older and the more they tell their kids that there's no sharks in the water, and then the kids get like, it will just become normal. Because digital's not going away. I mean, if I'm betting like for all the naysayers, digital's not going away. There may be bad players from time to time, and we've seen them. There may be greed that comes in and bites us in the ass, but that's true in any industry. But there's just too much possibility, too many formats, too many places, too many ways you can go and do this thing called digital. And I'll leave it at that. And then digital art, which is a tangent to that, it's too big right now for and even a dozen stupid people to burn it to the ground. It won't happen. If anything, the SEC just sanctioned it, so it's actually going in the other direction.
Yeah. You know, it's been really exciting for us because the past 2 years we've been able to meet hundreds of people worldwide that were never collectors ever in their life, and they started collecting on the digital side, but now they're collecting on the physical side, and they're excited about it. Now they're collecting a bunch of physical collectibles. I mean, I had a chance to meet somebody at New York Comic Con, and he said, "Sean, I'm 50 years old. I have never been to a Comic Con in my life. And last year I spent about $100,000 on physical comic grails because I love collecting now. And it all started with digital collectibles. And I thought that was one of the coolest case studies we've experienced, was meeting all these people over the past couple of years.
Well, I'll go back probably been longer than I think, at least maybe 15 years, maybe. They came out with, at that point, digital download comics. Right, you could go to like places like Comixology and stuff like that, and you could pay and get it down. It would come on your iPad or whatever tablet you had or whatever, right? And you could get it. And we were one of the last adapters, the comic book industry, because people or the retailers were scared out of their mind because they saw what happened once music went digital, right? The record stores went away, and they saw what happened when DVDs went digital. That like the DVD business went away to the point that even Blockbuster sort of disappeared. But it actually had the opposite effect. What they were thinking was going to be like the doom and gloom, especially if you went day and date of doing digital, had the opposite effect. That people were reading their digital and then going, man, that's kind of cool. I'm going to start collecting, to your point, and then I'm going to go to a show. But if I'm going to get Todd to sign something, I can't get him to sign my digital version. So I'm going to go buy a physical version. Or I know people who buy the physical and then they download the digital so they don't dog ear their comic book, so it's still in good condition, right? So there's lots and lots of ways, and I don't understand like anybody who's trying to figure out a way to have less people in the party. And the party is fandom, right? Like if they come in because of digital, or they come in because of physical, or they come in because of, smoke riding by an airplane up in the, like, who cares how they got here? Who cares? The goal should be that the more of us, the merrier, the more legitimate, the more sort of fun stuff that's here. And then go and, it's like a grocery store to me. Like get everybody into the grocery store and then go and put in your cart what you personally like. But it doesn't mean the person behind you is going to put the exact same stuff in their cart. But we all got to eat and we all got to like enjoy what we're eating. So let's just go. Like I think fandom and art is the same way. Just let people consume it however they want in whatever
Yeah.
fashion they want.
Yeah.
Like, and stop worrying about them, right? Worry about you and just do what you like. And like, again, every critic I've ever had for 40 years, I've had the same answer to them. Then I think you should spend your time and money on things you personally enjoy. Right? This is a you problem. It's not a me problem.
Yeah.
If you don't like my artwork, my artwork is what it is. I'm not going to get it to your taste, obviously. So go and find people you like and buy and consume their stuff. I don't know why you want to spend time talking about stuff you don't like. It's weird to me. It's a weird way of spending your day. Just go and spend it on things you like. It's like life can be kind of joyful if you let it, but that's me. So
yeah,
we
saw this. Oh, there we go. We saw this analogy recently on one of your videos. I like broccoli, but I don't like the Brussels sprouts. So love that.
Such
love
a
that
perfect analogy. It was so fantastic.
No, I've said it before. I don't like Brussels sprouts, but I've never gone to BrusselsSprouts.com ever. To lament about it. I just don't buy them and put them in my cart. Here's what I do. Here's what we all do in the grocery store. We walk on by. Yep. We walk on by. And I wish people could take that same mentality with art.
Yeah.
Just walk on by. If you don't like Taylor Swift stuff, don't buy it. Just walk on by. Go buy the music that you like. But those that do have it in their cart, put it there for a reason. They actually like it. Right? So you go get your stuff in your cart. Let them have their stuff in their cart. Why you like, again, I've never seen anybody at a grocery store go, oh my God, what, you've got Captain Crunch in yours? I hate Captain Crunch. Like, no, you just go get your Lucky Charms and you let them have their Captain Crunch. Like, God. So,
oh, that's so great.
I totally agree. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a blast, and I'm so excited to see where the one-on-one NFT goes. It's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah. Again, like you said, it's a big bite at an experiment because I'm putting up a page that has historic significance, right?
Yeah.
So, but two things are going to come out of it. To go back to what we talked about earlier, we're going to get the moment of what it meant right now, and then we're going to see what it means 20 years from now.
Yep.
So the impact of what it means today and what 20 years from now may be significantly different, right? So but that's the cool part of collecting and being a fan and geek, like just watching the future, because here we go. If we all knew, we'd be buying all the same stuff. But actually that wouldn't work because we'd all have it, so it wouldn't be worth anything. So
exactly.
Sometimes you just get lucky. You make the right call and sometimes you don't. And then we try it all over again. So it's just called life, right? Life's actually kind of entertaining if you let it.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And it's really exciting to hear you say, this is it. Here's one digital and I have the physical, and here's your chance, guys.
Yep. This or never.
That's it. That's it.
And whoever gets that is actually that, like, given that I don't know if I'm ever going to sell my physical, they're actually going to have the head start of going, look, there's only two, but one's not for sale, right? So I got the other one. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with it when it starts to potentially resell itself over and over time. So
nice.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining, everybody. I really appreciate you all for joining. And make sure to follow Todd on all of his socials, and also, of course, McFarlane Toys, Oddkey, and make sure to follow the Spawn #1 original cover art 101 NFT being auctioned right now at Mallow, ending this Wednesday, May 16th. Todd, thanks again for coming on. It's been get your bids in, guys. Yeah, just two. Technically, actually just one.
Yeah. and one last plug. Make sure if you like our content and you enjoy what we're doing here, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. We put out some really, really awesome content every couple of weeks. And
it's so much fun putting those together, guys. Yeah. Enjoy it.
All right, gentlemen. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. You guys are doing a good service for all us geeks, right? Like I've always said that there's a couple components. There's the end consumer has to buy what I make, right? So there's me, and the end consumer. There's sometimes, if you're doing it physical, there's the retail stores in between, right? But then there's the piece that I think gets undervalued, which is what you guys are doing, which is getting the word out. Either just, and not a product, but just information about news about the industry, updates on industries. Those are valuable, right? Like news plays, media plays a giant part in all this. So, and if one of those pieces, one of those four pieces, especially if you're doing something physical where there's retail, if one of those four pieces breaks down, we all collapse, right? If there's no consumers, it doesn't work. If there's no people creating, it doesn't work. If there's nobody willing to put it on a shelf, it doesn't work. But if nobody even knows it exists, which is where you guys come in, then it also collapses. So all of us feed off each other. And so I'm thankful for people like you guys that do what you do, because you're just helping the ecosystem here. So appreciate it.
No, thanks
Thank you. Thank you for making great art for us to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A win-win. We call it a win-win.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. You be good.
Thank you so much.
The next one,
Appreciate you all.
thanks so much.
Bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.